Right now, getting jiggy with TheLaughingBureau.com. Get jiggy with it.
Bad in the sense of Rod and Mona weren't comedians or comedy people, meaning the art wasn't the art. The perception of how the art should be perceived was for art. It was, we run a comedy club, we own a comedy club, we got a comedy club. And it's like, well, there are little things you might need to do to keep this comedy club together. That wasn't always the priority. As time goes on, a lot of times with any business, you have to put money into it. A lot of times money wasn't put back into the club. I mean, for example, there are TVs over the bar. Those TVs have been there longer than me. You see what I'm saying? Like they had tubes. Nobody has a tube TV anymore. It's like, come on, dude. Especially in a club. But these were things that were a priority then. Because of the location of the Laff House, it consistently made money. I was often said that it made money regardless of what they did to stop it from making money. But again, can't tell nobody how to run their business. I was just always there in a management capacity, whether it was help booking, doing some of my own events there with promotions, or just lending a hand where I can. In later years, recently I came back to actually be operations manager, but for a long time I was just, I would say, reference. I would make sure that they got comedians in that they may or may not know of, because one of the things with booking, people are so always annoyed with booking, like they keep booking the same comedians. It's like the average person booking a show doesn't go out to see who's who. They book who they've seen or who comes near them. So that was the same thing with the Laff House. They were booking who they saw, who came near them. Fortunately for them, I was always around. I moved around. I traveled. I was a road comic, so I would always be able to bring acts to the club or get acts to the club. So kept the club viable, but again, focus of the priority wasn't always business, and it wasn't always the art form of comedy. So Miss Mona went through a very severe bout with cancer. I don't know the specific type. I think it was ovarian. But any cancer takes its toll. In so many ways, Miss Mona was the class of the club. She was the integrity of the club. She was the backbone of the club. She was fair. You know, she was firm, but she was fair. If she told you something, she could tell you why she was doing it. She could explain it, and she could stand up to it. It wasn't about being wishy-washy. So the club ran how it ran, but it ran with a direction and a determination that truly came from Mona. In her sickness, you know, it takes its toll, not just on the club, but her personal relationship with her husband, who's also the owner of the club. And it takes its toll on her as an owner to have to run that club and then every night go home and watch his wife slowly deteriorate from there. So all of that happened in the last 2 years. And then we look up, and there was always a situation where club monies would go places that may not have been the club. There was always a bill not paid. There was always something that we didn't know about. There was, and when I say we, I mean me and the general manager at the time, Bree Anderson, because after Mona passed, Bree could pretty much run that club by herself. Rod wasn't. I don't want to say Rod wasn't a factor, but he wasn't a factor. You know, sometimes you own things. You don't have to run them. You just own them. And after Mona's passing, I guess that was where that was in certain capacities. And I came back as operations manager last October. So with me being charged, because Mr. Rod was at his point where he was like, yo, I'm tired. And I understood that. He said, I need your help. And I came in and I did what I thought would make more money. The first thing you do to make more money is stop giving away money. Sure, our night is packed and we're getting the bar and the food, but at that time, we didn't even have a 2-drink minimum. So we would get whatever bar and food that crowd would allow us to get. That's number one. Number two, we're not getting any at the door. So that promoter is walking out of here with $1,000 to $2,000, and we get what, $700, $800 off of food? No. This is the club. The club comes first. If we eating, and then they got to eat later. So that was hard for a lot of them to deal with, but I didn't care because, again, my interest has been and always will be what's best for the Laff House. Since I started, that, as I describe myself, I said, I'm a charity of Capua, and it's a Capua. I'm here. I come with the club. So that's why when D. Lee left, I didn't go nowhere. When Rod and Mona, I was still, when Miss Mona passed, I come with the club. So whatever the club needed me to do is what I would do, and I wouldn't let anybody disrespect the club. And I would always tell them, there's no problem to let the cat come in here and do a night, but it should be beneficial to you as the club also. He shouldn't be, at the end of the night, he shouldn't be counting $15,000, $20,000, and all you got is food and drink, especially when y'all don't have a 2-item minimum to enforce it. So that was the second thing I put into effect. I said, because when D was there, we did have a 2-drink minimum. I don't know why they got rid of it. I could never figure out why. When they would struggle before, I would say, well, y'all need a drink minimum. Well, we don't have that because then people think the show is free. And I would always argue with Ms. Mona. I would say, it is free. This is how comedy clubs make them. I said, no, we are, Ms. Mona. I said, I understand. Comedians think it's about them in a club. It's not about us. Once we get to theaters and arenas, that's when it's about us. In a club, we are a distraction for high-priced food and drinks. That's what we are. I said, because 40 minutes or 45 minutes into this show, when you are changing the world with your jokes and you are levitating people out their seats with comedy, guess what happens? They drop the check. Here come the check. I said, so it's about the money. And that's okay. It's cool. But understand that's what it is. Let's get this money and keep it moving. It ain't about you. That's why in New York, I've never seen it. In New York, they got what's called a check spot, where the comedians started bitching so much because the checks would come and then their laughter would be reduced, which I never went through. It's like, man, if you're a headliner, you got to deal with that. But in New York, they would bitch so much, and because comedy is a comedian-driven industry in New York, they came up with what's called a check spot, which is how they would think a young dude, a new dude, hey, get up there and do some jokes while we drop the checks. Now, that's cool in so many ways, because it's like, damn, the headliner ain't got to deal with that. He get a fresh crowd. But it also holds a new young comedian in fire. Like, he go up on stage when nobody's paying him no mind. And if he can get from check spot to opening spot, he's doing something. So there are things that happen in clubs, but again, it's always for the best interest of the club. The Laff House didn't always operate like that. They didn't always put the best interest of the club first. As the time went on, it was late. And later, a lot of those financial expenditures that we knew nothing about just came to haunt us. And one day they walked in and they gave Bree pretty much an eviction notice. He hadn't been paying the rent. Now, I will say this. Money had been leaving for the rent to be paid, so I don't know what happened to the rent. But I'm not going to allow too much more because, again, I sit back and I watch. Not going to be too much more of the, oh, woe is me and the victim and, oh, man, this is a great club and I'm just tired. He fucked up and didn't pay the rent. And that's why we don't have that club. Period. All those stories, and I won't let him keep doing it at the moment because she was too good of a woman for that. All of that, without her, my heart, I would walk in here and I would see her. And yeah, that might all be true. That might all be true. But I'm sorry. I know this since I was 17 years old. Why not keep her legacy alive by keeping this club going? That would have been my thought. So there's a lot there. And I don't care how it comes out. I'm just glad it does because I get tired of, like I said, I watched it. I haven't said anything. I haven't actually, literally have not tweeted out there. And there's only about 2 people that know the whole truth. One of them is me. The other one is Mr. TuRae. And he'll never tell you because it paints him in a bad light. Which I don't care about him being painted in a bad light because he didn't care enough to tell his employees until the Friday before the Wednesday that they would be out of a job. There's 15 staff people in there that didn't know nothing until I posted it on Facebook Thursday morning, to which he replied when they asked him about it after seeing my post, oh, he's lying. I'm going to get him to take that down. Why the fuck would I lie? When did I wake up lying? 20 years of dealing with the Laff House, I ain't never lied on the Laff House. This morning, though, I'm going to just wake up and post some dumb shit to fuck with people's emotions. Why? I'm out of money, too. Like, I used to do a monthly, my introductions at the Laff House. I was ready to launch 2 more shows this fall at the Laff House. Me Gente Comedy and Funny Girls Rock. Now, of course, none of my productions are going anywhere. They just won't be at the Laff House. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to still do them. But it cost me money, too. So a lot of things he could have done, he didn't do. A lot of times when he needed help, his ego wouldn't allow him to step back and allow people to help him. And it's the reason why the club is closed. We did not have to lose that club.